Welcome back to the Frankie Fix channel, everyone. I appreciate all the support, all the subscribers, and if you like the content, like and subscribe. It helps support the channel. Here we have a Toro 622 snowblower I bought off Marketplace for $75 last year. It's pretty rusty. There's rust all over the bucket, the augers are rusty, the wheels are rusty. So what we're going to do in this video is totally restore it, part by part, bolt by bolt. And we're going to clean every single part up so it looks like new again. I think it's worth it. It's a good classic machine, but to understand my inspiration for this, we have to go way back to 1980 to my old neighborhood where we hung out at a collision shop called C&D Collision. Wally and Dino Gregoretti ran the shop, and they were master craftsmen at collision. Of course, they did all kinds of things, but it was a shop where we all hung out, made friends, had fun while watching Wally do his work most of the time at night when friends would gather after work. He was always open to teaching us things we wanted to know, and he was always helpful to us. Unfortunately, Wally and Dino passed away, so I wanted to dedicate this video to them using some of the professional skills I had learned. So with all that being said, let's restore this classic Toro snowblower together. Alright, so to get to the engine, we have to take this belly pan off because there's 4 bolts and nuts, and if you try to turn them from the top, they just spin. So we're going to have to lock down the bottom while we remove the top ones. But let's remove the pan, get a look what we're dealing with here. It's a 3/8 inch socket. It's really not in that bad a shape on the bottom. Clean these bolts up and put them in a baggie and label them, just like I do with everything. Good idea to keep them organized. We'll take a look at this. There's some gook in there. That's from the greasing. What it looks like. Somebody greasing it. You gotta watch you don't get the grease. I like the friction discs. These are all metal gears here, not like the cheaper snow blowers. You got the spring, you got a plate, a friction plate that spins, and then you have a friction disc that, depending on, when you hit the handle, this moves back and forth. Depending on where it lands, you get the different speeds. Kind of like a 10-speed bike gear. So I see the bolts there. I'm going to set it back down, but that's going to make it more difficult to get to. There's some things in the way here. So I'll have to figure all that out and get my wrenches ready. And we'll put it back down and see if we can get this engine off of here. Alright, before we move on, I just wanted to show you the friction disc here. It's just a wheel with rubber on it. Those are fairly inexpensive to buy. Basically, you can see it spinning there. When the engine turns, that plate below there spins, comes in contact with this rubber wheel. It's actually metal, but it has a rubber edge on it, and that's what drives it. I like this drive system over the cheaper, let's say a Craftsman one that has like a lawnmower transmission. They have the brass gears inside of them that break, and then they cost but $280 to replace it. These are solid. I like these kind of systems. So let's move on with it. Alright, so this is a 1/2 inch socket. I decided I'm gonna, why put it down and work under it? It's gonna make it more difficult to get to these other ones. But you can't take them all out, obviously. The engine's gonna fall on the ground. So I think what I'm gonna do is leave the 2 top ones in. Actually, this one over here, yeah, that's not too bad. Kind of a weird angle. I might have to use a different wrench for that one. But I'll get this bottom one down here. It's still got kind of a weird angle, but I think it's enough for me to grab it. On the other side, I got a 1/2 inch wrench here, I'm gonna use that on top. Just to hold the nut in place while I turn this bolt out. And there is a washer. I know it's going to fall out of here. Nope, we managed to get it. So it's just the bolt and the nut there. So that's one of them, and I think I'm going to get as many I can. I think I'll loosen those top one there on this side, and I'll try to get the bottom one because it's not going to fall off if I take the two bottom ones out. So let's see what access we have to this one. That one's easy. That one's right on there. So I got to get on the other side. Put my wrench on the nut. So I took the one belt off, I just moved the tensioner a little bit. Now that the engine's loose, it might be a little bit easier here to get this belt. I'm just going to tip the engine and pull it out. Alright, it's definitely going to be easier getting to these three because I'm going to have to reach in somehow and put a wrench on the back side of those because they use the locking nuts on them. But I'm going to remove the wheels. It'll give me better access to those. Alright, so I just put it in a service position, a little easier to get to these bolts and nuts here from the back side. And it's 1/2 inch just to hold the nut in place. And then I'm using the socket wrench, the socket here, ratchet. There you go, one bolt and one locking nut. So we got 2 more on this side. So we got all of our bolts and nuts out of there, and I've got them split in half now. The next thing we're going to work on is getting that pulley off. Underneath there's going to be some bolts that we're going to have to remove. I feel 2 of them down there, and hopefully that will come off of there and we can pull the auger out. So that's what we're going to do next. I'm going to find the right tool to get underneath there and see if we can remove it. So now we got to deal with this pulley. We're getting close to being able to remove the augers, but first there's this pulley here on the shaft, and there is a keyway. You can see that slot in there. There's a little piece of metal in there that's weaker than the metal on this pulley and the shaft. So what will happen is, this is a form of protection, really, insurance. Whereas if something gets jammed up, it will snap that key, and what will happen is it'll just spin freely and it won't damage your transmission. But we do have two of these square head bolts, and these are located underneath. So if you look underneath and you turn it, you'll see them. But you can use if you don't have the square socket, you can use a 3/8. This is an extension, and it fits perfectly. There is a little play, but these shouldn't be extremely tight. You can spray them with some penetrating oil, like I did that. You know, I just went under and sprayed them. A lot of times I'll do things the night before, and so that when I come the next day, it's already been treated. So you just put this in there. You get on the head of that square head bolt there, and you can take some vice grips and put them on and turn it to the left. You know, be easy with it, and you should be able to get them out. Now the next challenge is, and a lot of these can get stuck if they're real rusty, is getting this pulley off of that shaft. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, and I've been putting treatments on it. If it doesn't come off right away, I've angled it so it's up, straight up, and I put some penetrating oil, and that just sits there like a pool of penetrating oil, and hopefully works its way down into the shaft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start kind of pulling this up and down. You don't want to go pounding this with a hammer. You could damage the bearing over here underneath here, or the spacer. So I'm just going to lift it up and down by hand, working in the penetrating oil. And if it doesn't come off, then I'll just apply some more and come back in a couple hours, you know, or the next day, and try it again. Eventually it'll work its way in there and you'll be able to get it off. Okay, so here's where these square bolts go. You can see them here. That's what you're looking at underneath to remove them. They're just square. Alright, so we should be able to lift this out of here. And there we have the Auger, which is going to take some work. We want to repaint this. I mean, look at the transmission on this thing. I mean, you see the snowblowers today, they have they're just tiny, and they have the brass gears in there, the worm gears. This one's built solid. Alright, so we're down to what they say is a bearing, but it's not really a bearing. There's 3 carriage bolts here, same ones that are going to be holding the scraper bar in, which we're going to remove. And this washer here goes on the top. And here you have the top half. This Triangle Manufacturing Company. Then you have this, which is really just a spacer. There's no moving bearings in here. I think in previous designs they didn't have this fitting right here. Basically that just keeps it from spinning. So it's not a lubrication point. But these have to be lubricated. But there's no bearings in here. I guess that's the only thing I don't like, is there's no bearing. It's just a spacer. And a lot of times there's a lot of play in it. I don't have a lot of play in here, so someone must have did something where this wasn't used very much. It was just sitting and just rotting away, pretty much, the body. But that's all that does there. And then you have this bottom piece, which goes in this way. this on top and your 3 bolts. So the next thing we're going to do here, so I'm glad that's okay, we're going to remove the scraper bar bolts, which are basically just small carriage bolts, same thing as this. And we're going to clean them up. I see a lot of people when they redo these, they just paint over the rust and they paint over all the bolts and everything. That's not how we do it here. Every bolt is going to be cleaned and brought to new condition. And then we'll do the rust removal. Okay, so we have various tools here that we're going to need, and I do have safety goggles and I do have a mask, and we're going to go at it with some stripping discs. We have the Makita there with a large wire wheel on it. We have a box of assorted tiny wire wheels to fit into different areas. So my main goal here is just to get the loose rust off now, and then we'll work on priming it. But we're not going to be able to do that until we take care of the loose metal and get that rust taken care of. So that's what we're going to start now. And here's a look at the strip disc I'm using on that Makita angle grinder. Alright, so this procedure will apply to any application of metal, your car. Same thing, really. I'm going to open it up. I'm just going to mix this up a little bit. I'm not going to need much. I have a little squeegee here. You can get these in the same aisle that you buy the Bondo at, whatever store you're going to, or look them up on Amazon. I'm going to add this here. And that's probably all I'm going to need. I can always mix some more up if I need it. It's going to dry fairly quickly, so I'll be able to work with it quickly. Then I'm going to take my hardener. We'll put some hardener in there. And now we're just going to mix them together. Obviously, the more hardener you add, the quicker it's going to dry and the less working time you're going to have. So I'm just going to keep mixing this in until this used to be red color, until it's like a light blue. It's mixed in well. Then I'm just going to go ahead and skim this here. Don't want any air bubbles in there. Smooth as possible. Since this is the outside, I want it to look nice, so it doesn't take long just to get those few imperfections out, so it's not a big deal. So I'm going to close this can out, give that time to dry, and we'll move on to sanding it. Well, that didn't take long. It's already dry. We're going to take my orbital sander. I'm just doing this dry. I'm going to do a wet sand afterwards. But this is a 800 grit orbital, and we're going to smooth out that Bondo there. So I'm also using 80 grit, and then moving on to the 800. It's very smooth now. I think we're going to go with the wet sanding now. We'll do a wet sanding on it, just soap and water, and maybe I'll use a 800 grit sponge. Clean it all up. We'll reprime this area, see how it looks after that, and if everything's smooth, we'll be ready to put the paint on it. Alright, a couple other pointers. You don't want to paint it in the sun, so I picked a shady spot. It's probably about 82 degrees. It's not too humid. I'm going to start putting my coats on now. There's not too many bugs flying around, so that's good. You don't want that in your paint. So let's get started with it. Alright, we've done our 2 coats of red, apple red, and 1 coat of clear, and you can see how good it's looking so far. I'm happy with the result. So we just have 1 more coat of clear, and we're going to let it sit here and dry for a while. So I'm pretty happy with the result of this. I just have to go through and maybe do 1,000, 1,500 over the clear coat, smooth it out a little bit better, and then put another coat of clear on it, and that should be done as far as the bucket goes. And next I'm going to focus on these augers. Now they were a bit rusty. I do have a can of Rust-Oleum enamel that I'm going to brush on. I got some brushes. First we're going to have to take the snap rings off the end and the shear pins, and that's what we're going to do right now. So on these Toros, they're going to have, you know, with the big barrel type augers here, we've got a shear pin, 1 on each side. It's not like other snow blowers where you have them along the auger. And we do have a clip that we're going to have to take off here. 1 on each side. So I'm just going to remove, and if that's why you have this opening here. I think it'd just be a lot easier to work on these taking them off of here, because this thing is so heavy and awkward. And I'm going to need to turn these and manipulate them as I'm painting them, so it'll be much easier removing them from here. I'll just have to figure out something I can put them on. There's your shear pin right there. And that's a nylock nut there. Should have probably been a little bit looser, because if these are too tight, it may not, if something gets caught in the augers, it may not break. It may not break this. It may damage your transmission. So next I'm going to work on the snap ring. I'm going to open up my package of snap ring pliers, remove these, and we should be able to slide that right off of there. So if you never used snap ring pliers before, it's real easy. See how they work? I'm just going to stick them in these 2 holes in the snap ring and just grip it. There you go, it's that easy. So here we have our tubular, unique Toro barrel augers that look like spaceships. And you can see that the inside is going to be difficult to do, but I might have to spray the inside with something to get the reach. But I'm going to use the Rust-Oleum there. It's oil-based black, satin black, and I've got a bunch of those little brushes. And once I prep this all, same procedure, just going through making sure you get every bit of rust off of it that you can, particularly where the welds are, because you want to protect those welds, get them all good. This is just a hard bristle wire brush, but I also used, and I've done it already, some of it. I used my drill with a bunch of drill brushes. So that's what we're looking at here. I'm not going to bore you with prepping these all. You just want to be detailed with it, get any loose paint off, and then we'll go ahead and I'll probably hang them from shepherd's hooks in the yard. I think I'll hang them up and I'll prime them. I'm going to spray them. I'm going to use a spray primer, and then I think it'd be good to put the oil based on it with the brush. I can lay it on a little bit thicker. It'll be more durable, because these are what come in contact with the snow and the salt and ice and whatever else. Alright, so here we have the heart of all the controls. We have the friction disc plate. A lot of this stuff I took out already. There's a couple more things I have to remove, but it's so awkward. It's going to be better if I just remove everything to paint this part. This is the control section that controls the wheels turning. There's a pulley on there. The handles hook up to here. What I like about this unit is it's all metal rods. There's no cables that control everything, so you're not going to have an issue with a cable breaking or anything like that. But to make it less awkward, we're going to have to remove these handles and get the rest of this out of here so we can use the stripper disc on it. So that's what we're going to do next while we're waiting for the other stuff to dry. Okay, so we began to reassemble all the components which were individually removed out of here and cleaned up. Every nut and bolt has been cleaned up on the wire wheel. We've cleaned up the friction disc here with a brass circular attachment for the drill. The friction disc has some meat on it still. You can see the gears aren't worn down at all. This machine is close to 20 years old. It's excellent condition. They don't make them like this anymore. That's why I like the old ones. It's going to last me probably the rest of my life. You can see the springs here, which were rusty, are all nice and clean. Probably the original springs. We have the auger here and the gearbox for the augers all cleaned up. This has 3 coats of oil-based paint on it, and I've cured them out in the sun after 24 hours. And this has been going on for a number of weeks. This is all restored and new. I'll show you the wheels. I also repainted the wheels, as you know. We'll take a look at how nice those wheels came out. I think the black really looks nice with the red. I also reconditioned the tires and cleaned them up with some tire foam. I'll show you the opposite side of this gearbox here. We kept the original sticker in place and kind of worked around it and stripped it all down and repainted around the sticker. Let's put this back over here. So all that's left is to reattach the handle here. We're going to have to reattach the handle. And then we're going to work on the bucket and reinstalling this impeller. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me for the journey on this Toro restore. It's really going to be nice when it's done, and it's going to last for several years, probably the rest of my life. So thanks for joining me, and let's continue with it. Okay, so I've mounted the augers back on the shafts, and I think they came out pretty good. I mean, this snowblower was probably sitting outside and just rotten. They were pretty rusty, so I'm happy with the result. I have like 3 coats on them. I've put them back on. It's easy to do if you've taken them off for any reason and you can't figure out which side goes where. You just have to understand that these, when they turn, they should be moving inward, because that's grabbing the snow, and then it provides that snow to the impeller, which then shoots it out of the chute. So I'm going to give you an example here. I'm just going to turn these, and you just want to make sure when you put these on, there's seams where they're welded, that those are equal. You got the shear pins that I put in there. I cleaned up the bushings. We put the snap rings back in, but I'm just going to turn this to the left. If you were standing in front of the snowblower, it's going to turn to the left, and you're going to see how these are going to come inward. So you see how they're going to grab the snow and bring it inward. So that's the rotation that the motor is going to turn this. Alright, so I'm happy with the result. I've assembled it back together, greased everything, we put the augers in, we made sure they're turning in the right direction. You can see every single bolt is cleaned up. These are all the original bolts. We have the rims looking great. You might think, well, it looks great, well, you must be done. Well, there is some other step we can take to make it look even better and take it to a more professional level, and that's sanding off a little bit of the clear coat. The reason you do that is because there could be some imperfections in there. You might get orange peel, things like that. I don't have any of that because the temperature was right, the paint was warm, all the conditions were great, so everything turned out great, and I'm happy about that. But we're going to take it to the next level and just sand a little bit of the bucket to give it a shine. And how we do that is we're going to use a buffer. We're going to use 2000 grit paper, wet sand with a little bit of soap. I have a microfiber towel that I'm going to use to wipe it down, kind of simultaneously switching between the pad and the microfiber, wiping it down, seeing how it looks. And then we'll take a polisher and we'll take some polishing compound and we'll polish out that bucket, and you'll see what the difference is going to be. So we're going to do that next. So what I have is an orbital buffer. I think I've had this thing for 15-20 years. There's a microfiber pad on it. I think I got that from Walmart. It had to be 15-20 years ago. I have a microfiber towel because I'm not going to be able to do everything with this buffer. It's just because of the awkwardness of the bucket. And we have some Meguiar's Ultimate Polish. You don't need anything expensive. You don't need the $50, 3M polish. This will work just fine. So I'm going to apply some on the pad itself, because otherwise when you turn the buffer on it'll start shooting all over the place. I'll spread a little on the surface and we'll begin polishing the sides first. and then move on to the top of the bucket. Okay guys, thanks for joining me on this journey with this Toro 622. It's been quite a journey, but I think it looks great. Everything's working great, sounds great, runs great. It's going to be a great machine in the winter. You can do this kind of job yourself. Like I said, a few tips is just when you're painting, you want to make sure the paint's warm. Make sure it's warm outside. It was probably around 82 to probably the most 85. During the time when I did this. Also the prepping of it's important. Make sure the surface is clean. Do your painting in even strokes. You know, stopping it and starting, stopping and starting. Overlapping is important. And always use the clear coat. I think I went with 2 cans of the apple red, 2 cans of the primer, and then I went with 3 coats of the clear, particularly in the bucket area where it's going to get the most snow and salt and things like that. And also what I did, here's my tracing of the mount plate, just in case in the future I know exactly where the bolts line up. I don't have to mess around with removing the engine. I'll keep this in my files. You know, I printed this the other part of it from the website. You can just go to Toro, put in your model number, and you can get all the information on your Toro. But now I have a nice starting point for maintenance. You know, there's not a drop of oil on here unless I put it on here, and I did lubricate everything. Everything's nicely lubricated. But now I have a starting point. You know, it's not all oily. If I see oil leaking, I'll address it right away. I'm not going to have an issue because I maintain my stuff. But thanks for watching the video. I've got a couple more. I have a snapper and also the Toro 521. I have a carb. It's like it's missing everything. It's missing the gas tank's all full of varnish. I'm going to show you some tips on how to remove the varnish with just stuff you have around the house in the tank. We have a new carb for it. We're going to put that on it. There's no fuel line. There's basically the whole fuel system is missing. So we're going to try to get that running. And you know, originally I wasn't going to get it running after I did this. But I think if I get it running, I could probably sell it in probably October, November, and sell it for a good price, you know. So I'm going to go through that machine, and I also have a snapper. So those videos will be coming if they're not there already. But thanks for watching. Hit like, subscribe, and leave comments. Subscribing is perfectly free. It's absolutely free. It doesn't cost you a thing, but it helps grow the channel, and I can do more stuff like this. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.